we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
What I thought was we have to gain control of this. We have to move this more quickly. We have to move in a way in which we can take control of that airport. And we did.
For more on this developing story, William Lawrence is Professor of Political Science at American University. He joins me now from Washington, D.C. Professor Lawrence, thank you for your time. Firstly, let me get your take on President Biden's interview with ABC News. Are you confident all Americans and Afghan allies in Kabul will be safely evacuated?
No. There are as many as 15,000 Americans, some in outlying areas, for whom there's no corridor to even get to Kabul. And there's roughly 88,000 Afghans who qualify for the SIV visa program, and other Afghans who would also be eligible for evacuation. And at the current pace, it would take weeks and weeks to get all this done. And there isn't even safe passage from downtown Kabul to the airport. So there's a lot of confusion at the Pentagon press conference today about what's going to give. Will the Taliban start helping the Americans get people out? Will the security perimeter at the airport expand? Will the deadline extend beyond August 31st to well into September or even further? There's more questions than can be answered right now, and the chaotic evacuation of Kabul airport is even worse than that of Saigon in 1975.
Well, President Biden says there was no other way to handle the evacuations. Do you disagree? I mean, Republicans seem particularly upset.
Strongly. I don't think that there are many Republicans acting in good faith here, because this policy fiasco is shared entirely by Trump and Biden. Trump, who championed the Taliban's counterterrorism fighting abilities and sealed a very bad deal, which the Taliban haven't even respected, and Biden, who did just about every wrong decision he could to precipitate the premature exit of the Americans, who were not only keeping the peace in Afghanistan for the last several years in many respects with 2,500 American troops, but they were supporting 10,000 NATO troops and another 16,000 contractors, all 39,000 of whom were essential to help the 100,000 plus Afghan soldiers defend. Biden was also very wrong to say that the Afghans weren't loyal to their country. 69,000 Afghan soldiers have died fighting the Taliban in every spring offensive for 20 years. And the only reason this spring offensive succeeded and the previous 20 didn't was that basically the commanders in each city handed the keys of the city to the incoming forces. Some cities were taken over with as few as 12 Taliban soldiers who initially arrived. These were all deals, as you said in your setup piece, that were made in advance in case the Americans departed in the middle of the night, as they did from Bagram Air Force Base, and abandoned their Afghan allies. So here we are in scenes at the airport which are just unimaginable even a week ago.
And as you're speaking there, Professor, we saw people there, the images of people crowding the U.S. aircraft as it was on the airfield about to take off. And we've seen at least one person fall from that after it took off. What kind of backlash is President Biden facing at home over these images?
Quite serious backlash. Certainly centrist Republicans and Democrats who have, in general, some sympathy for the U.S. role internationally and responsibility to the Afghan people were horrified. There were, let's say, more ideological people on each side that just were happy to get out of Afghanistan and don't like America's long reach around the world. But we're still critical of Biden for how the U.S. was leaving in such a chaotic manner. The scenes from 4 or 5 days ago were worse than now, as Biden said, at the airport. And the U.S. Additional battalions have been added. I think we have close to 6,000 soldiers there now, Marines and 82nd Airborne Division. They have gotten control of the airport and are negotiating with the Taliban about the particular one runway they're using to get everybody out and not firing at planes as they take off. But at the same time, there have been anecdotal reports of people having to climb over dead bodies around the airport to get there, people making multiple trips to the airport with proper documentation and getting refused because there just weren't enough airplanes. And of course, the larger question of what will happen to the many tens of thousands of Afghans who are qualified to leave, but for whom there's no plane right now, and the millions of Afghans, let's say roughly 30 million Afghans who were in some way or another supportive of the government that just fell and not in support of the Taliban, who are weighing their options. Do they rush for the borders, all controlled by the Taliban? Do they try to stay and make peace? How many of them will be killed? How many women will be prevented from having careers and pursuing their education? And there's been already several cases of summary executions in certain cities, which shows another very important point, which is the Taliban are not monolithic. Even if there are some Taliban who are offering safe passage and respecting human rights, other Taliban are not.
And Professor William Lawrence at American University, always appreciate your perspective. Thank you.